Hi, my name is Debbie Grimm, and the following are the pieces I selected for my reflective writing portfolio. When I began this class, I realized that I was at a disadvantage compared to most of the members. I did not have a classroom to practice and pass on what I was learning. My students consisted of struggling readers and only struggling writers when it came to written responses on summative assessments. Needless to say, I decided that I would have to take a different approach to how I processed and utilized everything I learned this semester. The approach I adopted was as a risk taker, pushing myself to attempt new approaches to writing as well as technology, which, by the way, was the most difficult. With every lesson, I asked myself, how can I use this to make myself a better writer, to coach teachers in their writing classrooms, and to help my students tackle difficult responses on assessments? The following 5 artifacts were the best selections that reflected these questions. The first selection is from my Tumblr post on considering my roots. This is the first time I realized my writing background was pretty empty. Growing up in the 60s, writing was not a big part of my elementary experience and was also very limited in my high school experience. Thinking back to all these times, the aha moment that occurred to me was when teachers have poor writing backgrounds, it makes it very difficult to provide rich writing experiences in the classroom. I know now why teaching writing to students was so difficult for me. Writing this post opened my eyes to what not to do as a writing teacher, and by reading other posts, it helped give me insights on what great writing teachers look like. The second artifact that I chose came from a forum post following our lesson on grammar. In these posts, we had to comment on the huh, and the aha on the video lesson. The lessons where I had to respond this way were very difficult for me. After doing more than one, I said to myself, this is how our students feel when they are given questions to respond to and don't know where to start. I then realized that the more I practiced answering in this format, the better and more comfortable I was with it. So this post gave me 2 aha moments. It opened my eyes on the perspective students have when tackling difficult assignments, and it also helped me be more open-minded when it came to grammar and writing. My third artifact put me in the shoes of a writing student. Since our students are having such difficulty understanding text features, I wanted to have the experience of composing some for myself. Here are some examples of the ways I use them in my multi-genre project. I felt I could use my experience in this process to help the teachers that I coach work with their students on the value of text features and how to use them. The fourth artifact surprised me as a writer. I composed this poem as part of my multi-genre project after we had our genre lesson on poetry. I always had a poetry unit with my students when I taught in the classroom. I was always amazed at the final poems that my students could produce. However, I had such a difficult time composing poetry myself. I worked on this lesson late one evening and realized that I do my best writing past midnight. After reading through many of the poems and reflecting on our Saba meeting earlier in the week, I composed this poem about my trip to Europe at age 16. Writing this poem broadened my experience as a poetry writing teacher. The final piece that I picked reflects how I have grown as a writer. When I finally made a decision on my multi-genre project, I knew that an essay on Dachau had to be included. I felt that I captured my feelings of this experience quite vividly. I revised this many times, writing in the car, I wasn't driving of course, in my living room, at school. I started and I stopped several times. As a writer, I learned through this piece that personal experiences make the best writing ideas. I also learned that different environments reflect the words I produced. I realized that learning these things about me could in turn be passed on to the teachers that I coach. Explaining to them the process that I went through and how as adults we do our best work in different environments and when we can make the choices about what our writing topic is. All of this can be applied to how we approach writing with our students.